Hey folks, welcome back. This is Art of Cycling. I'm Greg Leach, getting my chair adjusted, and we're to the 10th stage of the Tour de France, and at long last, we've hit the mountains. Not the Alps nor the Pyrenees, but the Massif Central, and it's Bastille Day, so naturally, we've got some Frenchmen in the early break, and while this name is not French, this is Lenny Martinez. He is a French rider. His parents were immigrants. So despite the Latino name, he is French. Or should I say, he is French? You all do know what Bastille Day is, right? So he has gone out on the offensive today. It's a big group. I think there's like 5 or 6 Frenchmen in it, but it's starting to split apart, a little bit too big of a breakaway to be successful. It's a little ironic that there's a sweet spot of number of people in the break and its chance of success. So Martinez has been doing his best, not doing his best, is actually, well, he got second most points, but he has decided not only to try to go for the stage win, but he is also out here in picking up King of the Mountain points. He is about to take his second. Oh, I love confusing myself. His second maximum points and his third set of points over the top of this, the Col de Charade. I was thinking of some bad charade joke, but I decided I think I'll keep my dad humor in check for a moment. And behind him is the American champion, in fact, Quinn Simmons. Watching him go, as well as the rest of these guys. So I was thinking, because nobody's really going after him, peeking his head out right here, I've kind of noticed Ben Healy rides with his head to a slight angle. Starting to pick up tells. Back when Chris Froome was racing and winning the Tour, somebody commented on Twitter. It was still Twitter at the time. I still call it Twitter. That, oh, you caught the stem look. And I thought, stem look? Is that a euphemism? And I actually, messaged back, is that a euphemism? And she said, no. Turned out to be a woman. He always looks at the stem of his handlebars while he rides, which of course is where his race computer is. He was a great one for racing to the numbers. Looking at his power meter and making sure he wasn't digging too deep. And, and you have other riders, Julian Alaphilippe and the most, that races not to the numbers, but to how he feels. So, you catch these little tells. The other one I thought it was true, and now it's definitely true because he's in the breakaway again today. So Quinn Simmons has very long, flowing red hair, and so far, and I was convinced this was the case, but so far, every time he goes on the offensive, he starts the day with his hair pulled back. And every day he's just going to be working or, riding tempo or maybe even not factoring. He has his hair down. So all the riders should figure out that whenever he comes to the start line with his hair pulled back, look out. And, as I do these, I've been painting the tour now. This is my 13th year. And so I really there are racers like Bardet, who just retired, who the first year I painted the tour was his first professional year, the first year he was in the tour, logically. And so I painted him his entire career. And now I'm hitting the point where people I've painted are retiring. There's a whole long list, Sagan and Cavendish being two, that I painted from their very beginnings. Well, not Cavendish, I didn't paint from his beginning. So we'll call this Unchallenged. And the 14th is Bastille Day. Again, using these paint stripes to help. Actually, I think we should put a little branding on here. Because the teams, of course, have all sorts of sponsors. That's how this all gets paid for. It's advertising. Trek, who Quinn rides for, has been sponsors for a long time. Now they've partnered. God, I can't talk. Partnered up with Lidl, the German, I think, grocery chain, but has gotten quite common in the United States as well. And they used to be Trek Segafredo, which was a coffee machine, espressos and the like. So it says in this Bahrain Victorious, and I don't know where the Victorious comes from, but it sets me up for great titles when they win a stage. And of course, Bahrain is the country, the Arab country. There are those who get a little annoyed with what I've now heard people call sports washing, where the idea being that countries or perhaps companies with dubious reputations will sponsor teams in various professional sports to burnish their images. much that works. Oh shoot, I can't remember what order. Oh. Pretty sure it goes down here. So Ben Healy is a former Irish champion. So any former champion, so Simmons is the current American champion, so he has the full kit. I think a particularly nice champion's kit, and since Trek Segafredo, see, old name. Since Lidl Trek is a American company, they're doing a particularly good job of honoring the jersey. So like I did a painting of George, or Georg, there we go, German pronunciation, Zimmerman, who unfortunately ended up pulling out of the tour after his crash yesterday. Team had shared a post that he hoped to start today. Hope springs eternal, right? So I got started doing the time-lapse videos that you can see on my social because NBC got in touch with me, and they're who airs the tour on in the U.S. Got in touch and basically asked if I would send them one that they could air, and that wonderful relationship lasted. I believe it is now over this year, or at least for this year. Still hoping, but they had asked if I would send them a time-lapse video. So I got an email like, the tour started, posted a picture, here we go, about to paint the tour. And I got an email back from the online producer who was emailing me from the road at the tour, but asked if I would send a time-lapse video, and I, of course, immediately responded yes, and then immediately contacted my son going, how do I do that? So for all artists, and this is, and I mean this in all due sincerity, yes, there is luck involved in getting your art seen. But the important part of that luck is to be ready for it. My first gallery involvement came because I was waiting tables, and I still work in the restaurant business at my tender old young age here. And the table was chatting, and you're not supposed to, particularly at fine dining experiences, you're not supposed to break into the conversation, but I walked up as one was saying to the other, well, I really love that Philip Pearlstein you have in your front office. And I couldn't help myself. I said, oh my God, you got a Philip Pearlstein? And the woman said, oh, no. I don't know. I have one hanging in my gallery. And I'm like, well, I've already broken the rules. I go, you have a gallery? I'm an artist. And she very, graciously said, well, why don't you bring your work by and we'll take a look at it. Now, the thing was, I showed up the next day with like 10 paintings. Like, yeah, I'm here. Remember, you said come? And that's my point, is that you need to be ready when that opportunity presents itself. And so when NBC asked, I immediately said yes, and then immediately went about figuring out how to do it. And, I knew it was possible. The answer to that, how to do it, was it's very easy if you have an Apple. Now it's easy with Android too, but at the time, at least my Android setup and my 35mm camera didn't do it. So my son graciously offered me his and then sent him off, and they aired him about 4 times, and that relationship lasted. That was 2017. So now, this year, they have told me they don't see how they can utilize my work, was the phrasing. And looking, so they would always put them in as they went to commercial. And looking at the coverage this year, they're using the same little bit of stock from about 3 or 4 tours ago. Not even using the footage of the race, where they do what's called a billboard. And they lay in the advertiser's logo and then cut to their commercial. And the background would be my artwork, this time-lapse videos. And you can see all those videos on my socials. So, Art of Cycling, I try to use for everything. There's a whole story on why it is an Instagram. So it's Greg Artist there. But all the others, it's, well, how much all the others? TikTok? Can you believe it? This old man's got a TikTok account. And the site formerly known as Twitter. And of course, Blue Sky. I had tried with and kind of by default having an Instagram account, which is Greg Artist, by the way. You end up with a Threads account, but I'm not pursuing that with any passion, I guess. Hell, I'm not pursuing it at all. It's just, it exists by default. So, as you see, I've been working through the palette, warm to cool, light to dark, mixing some more of my greens here. It's like I didn't get that dark enough. The shadows up under the trees hanging onto the hillside here. I got a nice comment yesterday. Can't remember the name, but it was on Blue Sky, and she was like, "You see really well." And that's a big part of painting, is seeing. So now you guys don't get to see what I'm painting from. There might be a little intention in that. Yeah, I didn't say that to her. But that is a lot of what art is. It's just seeing and then translating. I heard an interview, who was it with? Probably Hopper. And he was talking about art is interpreting, looking at and reflecting back the world around you. And in his case, he was saying, the abstract expressionist, because he was at that same era. He was very much a representationalist. Realist would be too strong of a word. You recognize what the subject matter was. And he was saying the abstract expressionists would disagree with him, but I would disagree with him in a different way, because to me, the abstract expressionists were reflecting the world around them, just not in a immediately readable, that's a tree, that's a person, that's a, but still the world around you. And that's what I'm doing here too. This is my interpretation of what's happening. So I'm very much looking at what's going on here. And as I do that, I just realize that his socks, Lenny's socks, match the stripes on his kit. So we got to do that. I think I'll do that before I do the roadway. So of course you can find all of my artwork, all the paintings and the descriptions and talking about what's going on my cycling blog, theartofcycling.blogspot.com. So just want to put a little bit of shading. Oops, a little wetter. So see, you can take some water and just grab that paint and move it a little bit. See, that's why you give a little bit more dimension to the white areas. In fact, let's give his shoe a little bit. And then, so you can find them all at my blog, theartofcycling.blogspot.com. And of course, all of this work is for sale, and at the blog, you will find links to the specific website page to that corresponding painting, where you can purchase them in a secure site. Shipping is included. So should you want to make this or any of the other paintings yours, that's the way to do it. And of course the website is gregleach.com, and you can just, there's the spelling. If you want to just go browse, and there you can see the rest of my work as well. I want to get a little bit of this road. So there we go. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate it. I appreciate the comments. Larry and Don have gotten active, and I hope the rest of you will join in the conversation. And it also helps some of you all are asking questions that I can address in the subsequent video, like what pen I'm using, the Faber-Castell Pitt Artist Pen, and various. And of course, some people are mentioning, hey, what about this team? And if it happens, it happens. In fact, someone was saying they were looking for pink, and there's Ben O'Healy in the pink. So thank you all. Truly appreciate it. Subscribe. Not only will I be painting 11 more stages of the tour, but there's also the 8 stages, I believe it is, of the Tour de France Femme. So thanks again, folks.